here, and then I actually sold like 20% down here. So like my average sell was 408. But anyways, the point is the reason I bailed out of my entire position right here at 380 was the stock all of a sudden did something it should not have done in my opinion, right? Going back to what I was saying with the higher lows, right? We can very clearly see on this chart as well the whole day, low, 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 low. It's always higher, right? And then all of a sudden, we absolutely slammed here. And we didn't really slam the whole day. To begin with, I kind of thought that this move was getting ahead of itself a bit, anyways, because this was by far the biggest move that we made the entire day. My average, again, was like over here. So I was already thinking, the stock got ahead of itself a little bit. I probably want to start selling, which is why I started selling, because when it gets ahead of itself, it's natural for it to pull back. But then, given how aggressive this was, that to me was a character change. That to me told me the stock wasn't doing what I thought, so I decided to get out. Also, I want to point out, look how big the volume is, on this entire move versus like pretty much the whole day. Like the volume in the afternoon is far bigger than the volume in the morning, which is very rare. Usually that first hour of the day has the biggest volume. So there was definitely some, shenanigans. Started doing stuff I didn't think it was going to do, so I wanted to get out. So now there's that side when I'm in a winning trade, right? That's how I kind of think about it. Is the stock getting ahead of itself? Maybe I should lock some profits in. Is the stock doing something it's not supposed to do? Maybe I should just bail, break even, little gain, whatever, just to protect myself. But then there's the other side, which is what if it's a losing trade? So, on this trade, this again was very simple. And what you'll find is oftentimes the best trades are the most simple trades. When I bought these shares, again, roughly my average was like 340 or so. I quite literally just put a stop loss right here in my broker and I walked away, SL stop loss. And I was like, hey, I'm cool with that. If I get stopped out, I get stopped out. I do that most of the time when I leave my computer. I'm not just going to leave a trade open. I'm also human, so I don't want to sit in front of my computer 12 hours a day. So if I'm in a position, I'm just going to put a stop loss and let the trade work. And, we never stopped out. I was just picking what I thought was the most significant recent low, which was, 320. And I just let the trade work. I didn't even look at it till I got alert when it broke high a day. And that's when I started selling. Sometimes the best thing to do is, that's my plan. I have a plan that if it goes below this, I need to sell. The computer's going to take care of it for me. The rest of the way, I'm just going to get out of my own way and I'm going to let my plan try to work out here. So I hope, Hainsworth, that answered your question. I know that was a roundabout answer. James says Open doubled my account. That's awesome. Open was, there's a lot of questions. I'm just trying to make sure I get them. Super useful. Thank you so much. You bet. I'm happy I can help here. Yeah, Sharon says SIDU, you got out right before the big drop. Yeah, so for whatever reason, just averaged my trade, but I know I sold a bunch here, like 80% of it. And then I sold like the last 20% of it down here. So, because I sold so much at highs, that was roughly my average
and then
sell.
I actually
Was
sold
like
like
20% down. Let's see. Tony says, when a stock is consolidating for days, do you just keep it on a watch list? Or how do you know to start getting in before it pops? Yeah, so again, talking about, I know a good chunk of you are in Midnight Madness, right? Let me briefly show you what that looks like here. But I make the Midnight Madness videos and I do them every single day. Here, and then I actually sold like 20% down here. So like my average sell is 408. But anyways, the point is, the reason I bailed out of my entire position,
here's the one I did on December 31st.
Was
so you share my screen,
the stock all of a sudden,
and we walk through the charts.
But basically, what I'm doing is I've got this Google sheet here, and we break down our plans. And I kind of have two sections, and it's my same thought process is, this top section. These are the trades that I actually really want to look at and I want to follow. These are the trades that I'm thinking I might take that trade today. And then I break down a brief plan. And then there's what I call the back burner list. So, Tony, yes, I keep them on a watch list. These are stocks that are interesting to me, but just for the next day, tomorrow, or in our case, Monday. I don't think that they're going to give me a trade on Monday, but I want to keep watching them. And I'm waiting to see, are they going to hold up? If you've watched my Midnight Madness, a good chunk of these just die off and don't do anything, and that's fine. It's free for me to keep them on the list. Maybe they sit up, and oftentimes they do set up. Like SIDU was on our back burner for several days before we moved it up and said, okay, I think, tomorrow's that day that we want to watch this and we want to see it break over some key levels. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Let's see. Melissa's asking, do you sit in front of your computer all day or are there specific times that you want to be there? Yeah, my advice on that, I think, would be when you're first getting started, try to be there as much as you possibly can, right? And I know you guys got life, you got jobs, hobbies, right? You don't have to sit there 12 hours a day. I will tell you though, if you can and you do, you're probably going to be successful a little quicker, right? Than someone who only does it an hour or two a day. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be successful an hour or two a day, but it's like working out, right? The more you work out, the fitter you become. The more you look at the stocks, the quicker you'll learn, right? Until eventually you get a spot where, I don't need to be there all day. Usually, what I do personally at this point is I trade for the first like 2 hours of the day. Then I try to leave my computer so I don't sit here because I will sit here all day if I don't leave. And then I come back for the last hour or two because usually that first 2 hours and that last 2 hours are the most volatile sessions there. But then it also depends too, because sometimes there are stocks that are setting up, and you're like, I really don't want to miss this setup. Like Beyond, I remember that one. I was up at like 5 a.m. because I was like, I don't. If this stock moves early in the morning, I don't want to miss it. So I'm gonna wake up early just to make sure, even if it goes pre-market, I can pay attention to it. Good questions. Someone says, do you use a trailing stop loss? Not no, I guess is my answer. I don't use a trailing stop loss, but what I'll typically do is move my risk up as the trade develops. What I call it is, I'm letting the chart tell me what to do. So looking at this example again, going back to our SIDU here, I started with 320, basically down here. But by this point in the day, right, I would have moved my risk up to 335. And notice I didn't add any shares, but at this point, right, if we are right here and all of a sudden we slam well below 335, that's a change in trend, right? We know that all the lows previously have held up. So I don't want to be in that stock anymore, right? So I'm going to bail. Now, what ended up happening, like I said, is on this stock, we got ahead of ourselves. So I was like, okay, this is the biggest move on the biggest volume that we've had all day. The stock's telling me it's probably a good idea to take some profits at this point. Let's not get greedy. That's why I started selling. And then at this point, again, if for us to retrace the entire move, that's a character change. The pullback that I would have been expecting is like maybe halfway, right? Like if we would have bottomed somewhere around here and then kept going back up, then I probably would have held on to my remaining position. But we literally went all the way up and then all the way back down. So that's not a strong stock anymore, at least for this day, this trade. So I bailed and I moved on. And then obviously the next day it came all the way back, which was shocking, right? And now we're at highs. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing over $5 come Monday. So to answer your question, as the chart gives me a new level, I will move my stop. Jay says, Matt, do you use a technical stop or a mental stop? If I'm in front of my computer, I will use, mental stop, as in I'm watching it, I'm getting ready to push the button. But if I leave my computer, right, I don't want to come back to a big loss, so I'll put a real stop loss in there. I think the stop loss fear is overblown for a lot of people, right? And what I mean by that is like if you have 100 shares, the market makers aren't really gonna be hunting you for your 100 shares. However, if say 10,000 people have 100 shares and their stop loss is all at the same level, Well, then yeah, the market makers, they might, manipulate the stock a little bit and take your stop loss out, but it's not you personally, it's just they knew there was a lot of orders there. So they're gonna take that out as well. Jeff says, how many trades did you make in 2025? I don't know, Jeff, probably 1,000, probably over 1,000. I had it up somewhere. Trade distribution, number of trades. 1,603. I won 69% of my trades. Average hold time about 2 hours. Some interesting stats. Let's see. Brant, I'm glad I can help you with my teaching. I do my best. James says, how do you spot the runners before they take off? James, I usually don't. In fact, if you watch me go through all of those trades I went through, I think on every single one of them, I told you I was late. And that's okay, right? Because again, the best stocks, they just go, right? And what I mean by that is they continue to go and they keep running higher. If you're in a stock and it's fledgling, it's drifting towards low a day, you're probably in the wrong stock, right? And the best ones just go. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to take every trade and every trade you take is just going to go, right? Because every trade is not the best trade. But the best trades, yes, they just go, right? The best breakouts, when they break out, they don't look back, they just go. And, those, I don't want to say are rare, but like those are the best trades and they're the best trades for a reason. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Nathan says, what's your thought process when you watch each stock? Like, what are you looking for? Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go back to kind of what we broke down at the very beginning, and I will give us our Cliff Notes version here. And that's that. At the very beginning, I'm looking for stocks that run, right? I've said this a couple of times. A day one stock, and when I say a day one stock, I mean it hasn't run before. It just took off for the very first time. Let's look at some, right? I can probably find some here. What was INVS? Was this Friday or was this? Oh no, okay, this was December 31st too, right? Perfect example. INVS on December 31st, which was Wednesday, just took off. And it was a fantastic run, right? Great trade. But it was the first day of the stock, right? That gets it on my radar. There's no question. It's on my radar at this point. But I don't have as much confidence that that stock can continue to go higher because it is just the first day of the run, right? Again, you can trade it, but I want to be very confident because I want to bet the most money when I'm the most confident, right? If I'm not confident, I'm probably going to take smaller size. My big size is reserved for when I'm the most confident, and I'm the most confident after that stock's held up for multiple days because it's clearly proven to me it's held up for a reason. So at this point, let's look at INBS. Again, the stock ran from about $4 to 13, which is what, a $9 move. I think they did an offering too, but they kind of held up, right? So four to, we'll call it $8 is roughly the halfway point, right? Give or take 850. And this one's kind of interesting to me because it's holding up, right? Even though they did that offering, very similar to SIDU, it's holding up when it really shouldn't be holding up. So what I'm looking for at this point doesn't mean it's a buy, doesn't mean that, anything really. It just means I'm watching it. What I'm looking for is, are we going to all of a sudden start to trend up and go higher? Are we going to break above the previous day's highs? Right? I want a strong stock. The most simple stock saying is the trend is your friend. It is. If a stock's trending down, you don't want to buy it. If a stock's trending up, you want to buy it, right? So I'm looking for signs that this stock's trending up. For now, it's kind of just chopping around, going sideways. But if all of a sudden we get over 9, and then on Tuesday I look back at this and we close at like 950, let's say on Monday, or $10, I'm going to say, okay, well, this is getting kind of interesting because went on a run, it had bad news, but held up anyways, right? So maybe a breakout over these $12 highs on Tuesday, something like that. A lot has to happen for that to happen, but that's kind of where my brain goes. I see a lot of comments and some people struggle with the concept of, how many of you have ever seen a moment where a stock comes out with really good news, and then all of a sudden it goes down anyways? Okay, well, the problem with that is it was really good news. The stock went down. That's like a super negative in my book because the stock should have gone up on really good news, but it went down on the good news, which means that's pretty bad. Versus the opposite, which is when a stock has bad news and it goes up, that's a pretty good thing because despite all that bad news, despite something bad happening, there's still people buying that stock. Okay, that's interesting. And that's kind of what I'm looking at with the offering. An offering is bad news, but it still held up, right? And we just saw what SIDU did. If I zoom out here, yeah, initially pulled back a couple times on these offerings, but over the next day, the next 2 days, bought right back up, bought right back up. And then we had this super clean breakout about $3. And that was the day that we broke down that trade. And since then, we still haven't looked back. So, yeah, let's see. Brand says, do you do much pre-market trading? Not really a ton. I'm usually around my desk about an hour or so before the open. And look, there are great moves pre-market. There's no question. But I don't usually trade them. No. Sarah says, how do you prioritize if all your alerts are hitting at the same time? Uh, Usually I weight them. Like, I say I have my A plus trade of the day or my B minus trade of the day. Like, not every trade is the same quality. Um, Also, too, in the beginning, right? Like, focus on one or two stocks every day. You don't need to place 100 trades a day. Um, for me, on any given day, I might take like two or three trades. Or when I say two or three trades, I'm saying like two or three stocks. I might have two or three trades on those individual stocks throughout the day, but there's usually like two or three main stocks for me every single day that I'm focusing on. And I can tell you right now, come Monday, SIDU is absolutely going to be one. The other one is probably going to be Lunar, LUNR, which is another space stock. Very, very beautiful breakout. And this is a larger company. I can see it's a $3 billion company. That just tells me it's going to move a little slower, which is fine. But I can still find a position where maybe I can risk like 10 cents a share and make $1 a share, right? That's 10 to 1 risk reward. I'll take that every day of the week. And since it's bigger, it just doesn't move as much. But still, I mean, we can see a really explosive 2 day move. We went sideways for like a week and we just closed above that breakout on Friday, right? So definitely going to be watching that one pretty closely on Monday for it to continue to break over that $18 area. Frank says, what percent of your trading account do you use on any trade? I don't know how much I use because obviously it's different stocks at different prices, but I can tell you I like to risk about 1% of my account on every trade. But that's different for different people, right? I kind of make sure I have like a reasonable amount of trading capital in my account, right? I don't need to, have $700,000 in my trading account because I don't take $700,000 individual positions. Okay. But my advice is usually like find out what you're comfortable risking. Are you comfortable on $100? Well, then risk $100 on that trade. If that's not comfortable, you're in the stock, you're sweating, you're super nervous, you can't even get up to go pee to look away. Well, $100 might be too much for you, right? So maybe start at 50. And over time, what happens is you kind of you get more comfortable, you get more confident, and the money gets a little more numb. So that way you can size up, right? Like Jack Kellogg, I think he had a record year, and he had a couple trades where he made like over $1 million to $3 million. Well, guess what? To make his $3 million, it's not like he was risking $100. He was risking, two, three, $400,000 on those trades, and it was the same 10 to 1. It's just he's got a lot more money these days. Yeah, so along those lines, Russell says, what's your max percent loss once you get in? I don't think about it that way. I think about it, is the stock doing what I want? Is it breaking down? Is it breaking support? If it is, I'm getting out of it. If it's not doing what I expect, I'm getting out of it. Because worst case, right? Even if it's a scratch trade, say I bought it and I'm like, I don't really like this, I'm getting out. And then maybe I make her lose a very small amount of money. Guess what? I can just buy it again, right? If it all of a sudden sets up again. I think a lot of people they try to be the robots, right? And generally that's good advice. But in the same breath, like clearly if the trade is not working, just get out of the trade, right? If it starts working, you can buy it again. It's trading. You don't have to marry the stock.
Awesome.
Timothy says, do market makers see stop loss orders even when they aren't triggered? It depends on your broker, to be honest with you. They can or they can't. A lot of the times they do though. So yeah. And yeah, mostly trade stocks. I don't really do options. Sometimes I do in unique situations. Like I traded some silver puts recently because silver went bonkers, right? And that was hard to ignore. So, anyways, that is it for my time here. I hope I was super helpful. If you want to reach out to me, I'm sure Trey and the team can put you in my direction. I'm fairly active on Twitter. I'm great and active in the community. I am happy to help wherever I can. Happy New Year, guys. Let's make 2020.